Bólse agus Bannacht, hello and welcome to Resurrection of the Irish Wisdom School Global Online Gathering, where we are retrieving Irish and Indigenous ways. And this gathering is over the course of 5 days, consists of Shanachie storytellers, wisdom keepers, channels, and divine guides who are keeping the sacred flame alight for humanity, for each one of us, by being voices of Ireland and our lands. So it is a divine offering to the Great Mother and the great motherland of Éirú, Ireland. For she aches for her stories to be told, for her secrets to be shared. So the emerald crystalline heart of Éirú and our lands welcomes you home to her primordial roots, to her riches and her wealth. And I'm your host, Eimear Stassin, and you are invited to Tharisteach agus Ligda Ski. Come on in and really relax into this space, because I'm so delighted to welcome into this space our soulful speaker, Rachel Goodwin. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited to dive into your topic. You'll be speaking about how Sarah, daughter of the Magdalene, is here to empower us. And first, would you like to say a few words about who you are now? We were joking backstage of who are we now in this moment because it changes. So who are you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that before I came on to have this call with you, and I was looking at like who is Sarah, and I was thinking about, so it's going to be 20 years next year that I've worked with Sarah, and during that time my view of her has changed. I've had all these different like viewpoints, and I thought, yeah, and that's because I've changed and had all these different viewpoints of myself and the world and the universe. So yeah, my name's Rachel Goodwin. I work as a channel for Sarah and the lineage of the Blue Rose and Mary Magdalene sometimes, and occasionally Yeshua as well. And this isn't something I would say I chose for myself. Obviously, I did on some level, but in this lifetime, I'm working with them because they came along. They turned up, and I was just like, wow, really love your energy, but I don't have traditional viewpoints of them, shall we say. And yeah, I work very much as an energy healer. I work with the land. Um, I'm a qualified mental health nurse with a lot of experience in psychiatry and therapy and psychoanalysis and Jungian stuff and all that kind of thing. And yeah, I'll leave it there for the moment.
That's amazing. It's so interesting, isn't it? You say the choice part, it's like you weren't actively going out there going, come to me. And at a soul level, this is so divinely timed and orchestrated, which is so exciting. So would you like to share with people who don't know, who is Sarah and what has she come here to do, to offer, to gift to humanity now?
Yeah, so as I just said, it was nearly 20 years ago that Sarah turned up for me. And when she came along, I could really feel that she was an echo coming back from the future. She is the future. She is kind of energetically what we're moving into. And there's all different ways of seeing her. So I really like making Zoom backgrounds, partly because I live in an apartment. And if you didn't have this Zoom background, you'd be kind of seeing my television and this and that. It's like, okay. So I really like making Zoom backgrounds. And I couldn't find one picture that represented her in the way that I wanted her to be seen, but I kept finding all these different ones. So I thought, I know, I'm going to put them all up there because this is part of the story of Sarah as I've experienced her. And, you know, I've written a couple of books and I've been teaching courses and I've got YouTube and this and that. So I've been going on and on about Sarah for a really, really long time. And you know, I don't say that everything I say is like the truth or the ultimate truth, but I do feel that we are creating our own mythology about Sarah. We're creating our own story about her. And she is an energy that is rising out of the collective unconscious. She is totally an archetypal force, and you can find her in all sorts of different places and in different ways. So I thought I might read a bit of a channeling, if that's okay.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
This was the channeling I did in 2007, and it's in my first book, Sarah's Little Book of Healing. And I'll just read you a little bit of it. So she says, "Welcome all. I am the ascended Lady Master Sarah, she who was born to the Master Jesus and the Magdalena, Mary Magdalene. I have come to tell you of my news, that I am returned here once again, not in physical form, but through conduits, sources of energy, through the hearts of humankind. My light, my power is being given birth to on the earth. This birth is happening as we speak, as you read these words. My love, my light, the power that I represent is manifesting onto the physical planes. My energy represents the fusion of and perfect balance between the divine masculine energy and the divine feminine energy. I am these two energies combined to create a third and perfectly balanced, harmonious energy. This is my work then, to birth this power across the earth. As the Master Jesus held the Christ flame and my mother, Mary Magdalene, birthed the Magdalene flame, so I hold my power, which is symbolized by my flame, and I bring it to you, to all of physical manifestation. Open your hearts and breathe me in. I am there already, lying dormant, waiting to be awakened. My energy can be seen as the bright green of nature, the colour of spring, new leaves growing on the branches, abundant growth. My father performed many miracles. I am here to light up your hearts so that you can perform those miracles yourself. Remember who you are."
Oh my goodness. My crown was tingling during all of that.
I still
Sarah,
love it. Yeah, I still love reading that channeling.
yes. And Sarah's flame and green. I didn't know she was associated with green as well.
Yeah, so she has this really strong energy connected to nature. So she has this oneness flame. So over the years, you know, I've kind of like specialized in her flame, and it has three aspects to it. One is her lilac violet flame, which transmutes and transforms things for the new earth to come in. One is the white flame of divinity that connects us to our higher selves or the divine spark within us, whichever way you see it. And then there's this green flame, and that is the energy that comes in to weave into the material flame all of that gorgeousness that we've got from the higher dimensions. And it's it's the most important, really. People tend to really love the white flame because it's so transcendent, and the violet flame because it's so powerful. It's that green flame, which is the bit that a lot of us are missing. We're really good at going up as like, well, I'm talking about light workers, or, whichever way you want to talk about it. We're really good at going up and getting all this high energy, but then manifesting it on the earth, it's really such a challenge. And yeah, emerald green flame does the trick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you spoke in your writings in the channeling of opening your heart
Mm.
to allow. So how can people, maybe this is too soon to ask, but I'll ask it anyway. How can people connect with Sarah, with her triple flames, with this oneness?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. You just need to ask her in, to be
Mm.
honest. The simplest way that I like doing it is I have a candle that's my Sarah candle, and when I light it, she comes in. And I would say Sarah's wisdom is very much like the Magdalene's wisdom. It's feminine wisdom. And a lot of the time, it's really, really simple. We make things so complicated for ourselves. It doesn't have to be. So it is about intention. I mean, I'll mention this now just because it's sort of seems relevant, but we talked about me having a free gift, and that is the free gift. It's a meditation, it's an activation, and it's an attunement to connect to Sarah's energy, because yes, it is that simple, but it's also really good to have a helping hand sometimes. And I am a bridge for people who want to deepen that connection to Sarah. That is one of my jobs. That is one of my purposes, because that is what we give to each other as human beings. Those of us who've gone before us, who've done a lot of that legwork, they can just go, look, here it is, you do it like this. Oh, okay, thank you. And then you step straight into it, and it's a lot easier. Yeah.
And what was it like for you then when you connected with Sarah those 19, 20 years ago?
Yeah, it was really a shock. It was really a shock. So, I mean, just to say a little bit about my background, I didn't grow up as a spiritual person. I grew up in a very strictly atheist family. My mother was someone who was brought up Catholic but had turned away from it through family tragedy. And yeah, I was brought up, I was christened in the Church of England because my father was Church of England, but he strictly thought religion was at the root of many evils. So anything spiritual was just like anathema to me. And I was kind of like that. I was kind of happy being an atheist until my mother died when I was 26. And I just finished my nurse's training. I was just about to graduate. And I could feel her presence around me. And I had been feeling presences and having all sorts of experiences all my life, but had really denied them all very, very much. But my beloved mother, who had passed over, I couldn't deny her. And also, before she died, she had really, really deepened into her spirituality. She started doing transcendental meditation. She started going for healing. The healer she'd been seeing had told me I was a healer. And I was like, don't think so, you know. And then it just never stopped from there. Once I sort of acknowledged that I was having these experiences, it never stopped from there. And I sort of acquiesced to it and said, all right. And so I went off and I trained to be a healer. And then, yeah, because I get messages from spirit. It's a bit like, I know I sound a bit moany about it, but it's a bit like I have someone nagging on my shoulder, and I had someone nagging on my shoulder for a couple of years. Learn to heal, learn to heal. I did. And then after that, it was learn to channel. And it took me a long time to find somewhere where I could, because it's not actually that easy to find people who teach that. Well, it certainly wasn't anyway back in my day. I know things have changed a lot now. And then I learned to channel, and I was very much a goddess girl and still am. I trained as a priestess of the goddess, and was initiated as a priestess of Sophia and the Shekinah. And then at some point I went to Hawaii, and that was amazing. I came back, and Pele came back with me really, really unexpectedly. I was remembering that this morning. We had like a coal fire in our front room, and I was sitting looking at the coals, and I suddenly saw this face in it, and I was like, that's a bit funny. It's a face. And I didn't really think that much of it. And I went upstairs to bed, and I lay down in bed, and suddenly Pele just filled my whole body with her energy. I mean, it was so, so tangible. I've not had many experiences that are that sort of, it was like, it wasn't something like, oh, I feel this energy coming in, I wonder if I'm imagining it. It was just like she totally came into me. And that was the start of 2 years of like complete transformation working with Pele. She came in to really powerfully start me on this process of just letting go and letting go, which of course has never finished. And then, yeah, at some point I went on a channeling course, and I would go, I think it was once a month or something, and I went for a year, and I found it was something I could just do, and it was mainly the psychological blocks that needed to be worked with. And I think it's the same with many other people, actually. It's not so much they can't do this stuff, it's all the cultural conditioning and trauma and everything that's in the way. But then, yeah, when I came back from a year after I came back from Hawaii, I was inspired to hold, I think, a 6-week course helping people to connect to the land energies that I discovered in Hawaii. There was incredible places, and so we would do a different like place every week, and then I would open up to channel, and I would channel Hawaiian deities basically. And then on the last one, Sarah came through, and tellingly, it was a place that held the energy of love totally. It was a place of sanctuary. And she came through. And so I'm sitting there, and I've like asked for, a divine energy to come through and give us some wisdom. And so I hear these words in my head. And she said, "I'm Sarah, daughter of the Magdalene." And I just sat there and I was like, what? Who? Because she wasn't somebody that I had any belief in, as it were, but I could feel her energy. And I had worked with Mary Magdalene quite a lot. I really loved Mary Magdalene. And when you channel, I mean, this is how I find it. If you don't kind of speak the first bit that you get or write it down, you don't get any more. And I had this group of people that were sitting there waiting for me to say stuff. So I took a deep breath and thought, wow, okay, I'll carry on and see where this goes. Anyway, she carried on and gave us a channeling saying, love was the key and why and so on and so forth. And after that, she didn't leave. She stayed around, and I don't sort of keep her next to me all the time, but I mean, pretty much she's been with me near or at some distance ever since. Yeah, it was a shock. It was a shock.
Yeah, I imagine, because she's been erased from so many of the scriptures and the distortions of the Magdalens, so I
Yeah,
imagine back then it was such a shock.
yeah, exactly. And I have to say, I'm not a great person. I'm not a believer in things. You know, I my experiences are my experience. Like, I mean, when people say, what do you mean? And I say, well, when you see the sun, you don't believe in the sun, do you? The sun is there. And that's how it is. That's how it is for me. You know, she comes along and I experience her energy is like as if somebody's sitting next to me, except for she hasn't got a body, you know, because I pick up everybody's energy. And so I can feel that person's energy as much as I can see them. And that's how I see Sarah. I experience her energy, but she's just not there physically. But I mean, she has really not existed, in authorities' viewpoints, shall we say. But I think that's quite an advantage because she's not carrying any baggage. She's coming to us fresh. And we can really, like I said, we can really create this new mythology because it's moving through us. Her archetypal energy, as it said in that channeling, it's being born through us. And a lot of us are having the same experiences. And so all the things that I talk about and say about the different sides of Sarah, they all come from these years of running courses and working with her, and not just me, but what other people are saying about her. She's very interesting.
Yeah, and when you speak of her, you mention that love, and you hear it, you feel it in your voice. Even anytime you say her name, it's so infused in love.
Yeah. And she's the Magdalene's daughter. And so Magdalene taught her everything that she knew. And Sarah is everything that she is because of what she was given by Magdalene and by Yeshua. And then she's kind of taken it and run with it. And of course, she's her own person. Like when we have kids, they're us, but they're not us, right? They're totally their own thing. So these pictures that I have behind me, this one here, this is Cheryl Rose Hall did this painting for me back in 2008 because I couldn't find any pictures of Sarah, and I wanted to have something to kind of hang on the wall and occasionally speak to. And this she painted it green because that is, very much how I've seen her. This picture on the left, this is I can't remember her name. I'm so bad at remembering things. Perhaps we can put it in the show notes because it's really lovely. You can get it on Etsy. This is an image of Sarah Luck Cully, who is venerated in the south of France at Sainte Marie de la Mer in the Camargue. And she is the patron saint of the Romani people. And it's such a beautiful side of her that holds that black Madonna energy. And, I find working with Sarah, because for me, Sarah is somebody who's useful. And it's not so much about her stories for me. It's about the here and now and what she can actually do for us now. And she is capable of helping us go through the most incredible transformational change. And that sort of Black Madonna side of her really gets into our subconscious and our dark, magical goddess, mystical sides, and really brings that all up. And then this picture up here, this is Cheryl Yambrach Rose. This is her Magdalene, Mystique of the Magdalene. And this is one of my favorite images of Sarah because she's got all these dried herbs. And that is how I experience Sarah. I really experience her as a bit of a forest witch, to be honest.
That's beautiful.
She's so magical. She's so mystical. She's so in the land. Yeah. She kind of is the new earth in a lot of ways for me. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I have that
Yeah.
deck too. And yeah, continue,
Yeah.
you were going to say.
Well, and then here on here, I have this picture of a woman who's obviously quite rebellious and not taking any shit, you know? And that is also how I experience Sarah. And, you know, I really feel that the younger generations will be the ones who take her forward, because she has that energy in there. She's quite political. She's not having any of it. She's not going to conform. She's not going to agree with people just because she's going to go along with things. Oh, what was the other thing? Let me just feel into, there's something there. Yeah, and the whole thing, so she holds the divine masculine and the divine feminine in oneness in herself. And I often see her very much as someone who's gender fluid. She doesn't fit into, you know, the kind of romanticized versions that we see of like Mary Magdalene and of Yeshua being very female and very much. She's not having any of that at all. She's totally fitting into, you know, all of these things that we see in the younger generations, very much as far as gender goes and sexuality. Yeah.
Yeah, and the word feisty, you know, it feels like there's a feistiness to her.
Totally, totally. So she might not be as some people imagine, but then, like I said, people tend to see very different sides of her depending on what they need and who they are. And because I'm me, I see all of it. I get
Yeah.
the whole thing. Yeah, because that's how I am, you know?
Yes, and I love when you shared she doesn't come with baggage then. You know,
No.
it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. She is not weighed down by the patriarchal kind of tragedy that's happened in the Christian church. And that's something that I want to mention, because I think we often blame the church for a lot of stuff. And I'm not saying that they don't have a lot of responsibility, they totally do. But on the other hand, I think it's important to remember that the culture that we see around us and the religion that we see around us, it comes from the collective unconscious of humanity. And that is all of us. So everything we see is part of what is being held in the collective unconscious. And it manifests into things like religion and so on and so forth. So really, when we see that, that is something in us that needs healing, you know?
Yeah, that's such an important message for all of us now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in regards to you and Sarah, what's your connection and Sarah's connection, if any, with Ireland?
So I'll start with me. So one of the things that Sarah has always taught me in the nearly 20 years now that I've worked with her is we have to do our ancestral work and do our ancestral healing and really honouring the ancestors as well. And I've come to this through many different ways. One of them, which is Nordic shamanism, because when I moved to Denmark back in 2014, I felt very, very disconnected from the society that I was living in. And one way that I found to connect to it was looking for spirituality where I could learn about the kind of the culture of the place where I was living through their spirituality. And so I went and did spent a couple of years training in Seidr in Sweden. I had some wonderful teachers, Emelda Almqvist, who teaches Seidr was one of them. And the Old Norse, they really, really worked with their ancestors. They expected their ancestors to kind of do quite a lot of work for them. And they were very, very much a part of their lives. So it became part of my practice. I had an ancestor, well, I still have, I've got an ancestor altar and do all sorts of work. But even though I'd been doing it quite a lot for years as a healer anyway, working with my ancestral lineage, it really, really opened it up even more deeply. And the deeper layers of trauma really started to come up. So my family has got quite a checkered history, but nobody really knew anything about it. Nobody really talked about it. And at one point I did a DNA test because I wanted to just see where I was actually from. And I was quite surprised at the amount of Irish DNA that I had, and Scottish as well. So I'm actually more Irish and Scottish than I am English, you know, and I grew up in the south of England. But it also gave me quite a lot of access to my family's like records, not so much the Irish. And I think that's partly because from what I can work out is they came over from Ireland to the north of England around about the time of the Great Hunger, which I knew nothing about. Like no one. I mean, I still really feel it. No one talked about it. No one said anything at school. I never saw a documentary. And I came across it around about the same time because I was working a lot with the Blue Rose, and I was just obsessed with the Pleiades at the time. And I started reading. There's this woman, she passed, I think she was Irish actually. She passed not so long ago, but she wrote all these books about the Seven Sisters and the Pleiades. And they're just quite fun novels, to be honest. But in one of them, there's the story there in Ireland, and there's the troubles and the hunger and this and that. And I was just reading this stuff and I was like, oh my God, I never knew any of this. And I went onto YouTube and found some incredible documentaries and read books, and, you know, because I'm a bit of a researcher. And I was so shocked to kind of realize the trauma that my family had probably been through, because that's the other thing from looking in my family records. I can really see that I come from really, really poor people on both sides. And that was also quite a shock because I wouldn't have known that. I mean, I didn't grow up rich or anything, but, you know, my dad was an engineer on the ferries going across to France, and, you know, we had quite a comfortable life, and I had no idea, you know, and I could just see from all these ancestral records the kind of lives that they had. And it really made a lot of sense to me about the emotional beliefs that I had about the world. And I had a lot of stuff about it just felt really nihilistic. Like the world is a really, really awful place. And when I was reading these stories about people just starving to death, dispossessed of their homes, of their land. And, you know, Sarah was with me the whole time. And I also feel so much of the magic that kind of got exterminated along with it, with so many people dying in Ireland from the hunger, and their ways of living, which were much more pagan, shall we say. So I did find tragedy, but I also found a different side of myself that was not a person who grew up in Kent, you know, and had a Southern English accent, that there was just so much more to these stories, and also that they weren't so many generations behind me as well, you know.
Yeah, and I can really feel it. Like it's still it's in our DNA. It's here, and I really feel now it's coming up to be healed in all of us. And I was also reflecting how if your ancestors came over in the 19th century, probably so they're survivors as well, that they survived. You know, actually that was kind of a bit of a joke that my dad used to say, which is just his sense of humor. Like, we survived the famine, we survived the Great Hunger. So it's terrible, but that was his sense of humor. But yeah, it's very much here now to be healed, and how amazing how much you delved into your ancestry, your roots, to connect with this part of you.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure whether getting, sort of giving my DNA away to someone was maybe the best idea, but without having done that, I wouldn't have known actually, because both my parents have passed. They didn't have any brothers and sisters. There's not an enormous repertoire for me to, find out this information. So having that DNA was like really started the whole thing off. And also, as soon as I looked into it and it was there, I could feel it and I could start to tap into the energy of it. And then one thing, it was like, I suppose, like all the things that I do, it was a bit of a magical mystery tour where one thing just leads to another thing, just leads to another thing, just leads to another thing. And I have worked in Ireland. I can't remember how many years ago since I lived in Denmark, but I went over to Ireland with a friend who does a lot of kind of land work. And also there was an Irish lady that we worked with who lived locally to Tara and Newgrange and the other kind of I can't remember what they're called. So I've got all these Danish words in my head, but the burial mounds.
Yes.
And we did some work around there, which was extremely interesting, and I learned a lot about yeah, land clearing, and I mean some amazing energies, but also some very dark energies as well. Um, And Sarah was there the whole time. She was so, so present. And I still haven't kind of got to the bottom of it all. I actually sat on the side of Tara and channeled her and wrote it on a piece of paper. And I've never been able to find it.
Perhaps you're not meant to, it's not time.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, that information, it's like, I mean, there's so much like knowledge in my head from things that I've read. Do I ever remember them? No. But when I'm talking to someone or I'm doing a session or a reading or I'm teaching, suddenly it's all there and it all starts coming out. So yeah, absolutely. I just trust that it will come out, you know, when it's supposed to. But yeah, I'm sure because I'm not a great person on like looking for historical proof of things. Because for me, it's more what happens now that's interesting. So it's not something that I pursue and that I write about, but I'm sure I read somebody else saying that Sarah was in Ireland. I'm sure I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I have that feeling. And really, that's what this gathering is all about. It's the wisdom. It's the wisdom that wants to be expressed through you, through each one of our speakers. And like Sarah is like the poster girl for this, because she is the blank slate. Yeah, she is the new earth, the future, as you said at the start. And coming back to the when you said the green flame, that really awakened something in me, that we associate Ireland with green and the earth and her emerald crystalline heart. And you mentioned Tara and um,
The Fae, we got to bring the Fae
and
in
the
because
Fae.
they are totally around her. And one thing that I say to people quite often is when you go out in nature, ask Sarah to come with you and kind of be around you, because when the fairy folk see her energy, they will approach you because they love her.
That is beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
And I'm wondering, would Sarah have anything to say? And I honor all that you share. Before we started recording, I was saying, I wonder, would you, I want to hear from you, Rachel,
Yeah.
and I wonder, has Sarah anything to say? So if it feels right, is there anything she would
Yeah,
like?
I'm sure she has. So the way that I work is when I channel, I just go quiet and I kind of open myself and she comes in and has stuff to say. I just want to say that recently I've been working hugely with Mary Magdalene, and since September, October, November, December have all been Sophia, Magdalene, Rose energy. And they told me it was because next year Sarah's going to be coming in so strongly that I and other people, because I ran a course on it as well, needed to deepen really deeply into love. And that's really the Magdalene. She's just, she's the person to teach the way of the heart. It grounds us. We can be in our bodies, And I was thinking about my son this morning, who has ADHD and autism, is a very bright boy, and how he'd gone off to school this morning and he has such confidence. And partly it's because he knows he's so loved, he can just go out there and be himself. He's going to be 12 this weekend. And I was thinking about all of us who haven't had maybe such a secure attachment and had such, a deep experience of love, and how we have to try and heal that wound in ourselves. So we have that confidence to go out and just, play and be ourselves and, be open about who we are. And that's partly what the Magdalene is here for. She's here to really hold us in her embrace so that we feel really loved and all. But she teaches us how to love ourselves. All the time she's loving us, she's showing us this is how you do it, so that we really get it. And I guess she gave that to Sarah. But next year it really feels like, yeah, it's going to be that 20-year thing is a bit significant somehow. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but it's going to be like the culmination of like everything I've done with Sarah. Something's going to happen next year. But anyway, so I'll stop
Wow.
talking. Let Sarah come in. So when I talk, it's not just the words, it's energy packets coming through for people. So it's really good if everyone just like goes a little bit quiet and takes some nice deep breaths and just notice what you feel when Sarah's words are coming through, because you might get extra bits of information and healing and activations or whatever. Okay. Blessings, blessings. I'm Sarah. Welcome, welcome. It is my joy to be with you here on this day. And I would say some words about the land, about Earth, the beautiful Gaia, the beautiful ascended being of Gaia. There are places on the Earth where the energies are more beautiful, shall we say. These are places which you would call power places or sacred places. And really, this is how Gaia's spirit manifests itself upon the places of the earth where she can. One of the great works which has been started already, but which will take some eons to accomplish, is taking those places on the earth where all is not well, which are holding humanity's history of trauma, of thought forms that are not in accordance with the divine, everything that is not so well. This great work is happening to clear the earth, and it is humanity's task to do this. In the accomplishment of this task lies great learning. It calls for many of you to come into your full mastery and learn how to co-create with the earth, with divinity, with the elemental realms, and so on, in order to clear the energy pathways, the burdens that are held by the land. These heavy energies have the effect of keeping those surfaces, those places in the land, unconscious and unable to awaken. But picture this, that there will come a time upon the earth where all of this has been transmuted and transformed. All of this is gone. And the whole earth shall be as a shining globe, able to truly be fully herself with humanity, living in co-creation with her, finally understanding their own wisdom, their own ability to be divinity, whilst living a human life. This is the work that I have come to do, and I am an ascended master for the new age. I am here for those of a magical persuasion, whichever way that might be. The witches, the healers, the shamans, all of you who are special and different in some way. I am here for those of you who walk on the edges of society, who do not wish to be blended into the current thought forms. If you call on me, I will be there for you. I am here for you. I have come. And all is well. All is well. All is well. These are the words which I wish to speak this day. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. Amen.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Rachel. I can still feel the vibration of both of you. And this message is so profound and beautiful and aligned, I know, with many, many people that will watch this and tune in and feel the healing through you. And Sarah, wow. And I actually had to stand up while you were both speaking and let the energy flow. I felt a lot of stagnancy actually that wanted to move and shift and flow free. That felt really powerful.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, she tends to come in and like when it's her chance to speak, she'll cover those bits that I missed, which is great. You know, I don't tend to have to worry about what I might not have said. But I just that bit where she was saying about like see that globe in that shot. Oh, it was just so it was so beautiful. Just like even thinking about it now, I'm like, oh my God, that's just yeah. And I love the fact that she kind of says, you know, generally, I'm here for the dispossessed. Those of you who are rejected by everybody else, by society, I'm your person, you know? It's like, and yeah, I totally feel that from her.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
edge dwellers, the outliers, the witches, the wise ones.
Yeah.
We're all here. We're all here again.
There
And
was one last picture behind me. I'll just
yeah,
move. You could see it. I can't remember who this is either. I used to have a link on my website, but I really love that. I really love that picture. And that's one thing for working with Sarah next year that came in really strongly. And that is some practices that I'm going to be teaching people where you call in Yeshua, Magdalene, and Sarah together. It's that divine trinity. And it's really, really stabilizing because Sarah can be quite unstabilizing sometimes because she's the future, because she's that step ahead. Most of us, it's a bit of a stretch. So when we have sort of like Magdalene, Yeshua, they're holding us as the foundation, and then we can kind of reach up. We can kind of reach up to Sarah without suddenly kind of being thrown off, you know. And it's really interesting because actually I haven't worked with her so much like that. I've tended to work mainly with Sarah, and that's partly been because I haven't been a huge fan, not consciously, but unconsciously, of working with the masculine. And she's totally there for that. We have to work with the wounded masculine. So many of us are holding that trauma imprint inside of us, but we're also holding the energy of it. And it's time to replace that with the divine masculine, which is beautiful and wonderful. And we can also reach that through Sarah.
that's beautiful. Yeah, I feel like this has been such a transcendent experience. And as you speak of the Trinity, the power of that and how your work is evolving into next year for what's to come. You spoke a little bit about your free gift. Would you like to share any more? And then anything that you have coming up? This is airing at winter solstice, which is not long now. So anything else you have coming up that people may wish to step into with you?
I will be bit quiet over the Christmas time because I will be busy with family and cooking and so on and so forth. But yeah, come January, I have some interesting things planned for stepping into the new year and really connecting to that divine Trinity energy. So that'll be my next thing that I'm doing. And further into 2025, I'm working with something called the Sarah Empowerments, which is really exciting. And it's working with Sarah's energies, these different flames, and then there's different teachings, different wisdom teachings, I have all sorts of prayers and magical practices. And I mean, that's it with Sarah. She doesn't belong to any one culture or religion for me. There's a bit of everything. You get a bit of sort of sounds a bit Christian, sounds a bit pagan, sounds a bit indigenous. It's like it's all sort of mixed up into one wonderful ball with her. So yeah, that's going to be my big project for next year is the Sarah empowerments.
Amazing. Yeah, I personally feel very called to that. And that's the weaving, as you spoke of, with the green flame and the weaving. That's it. It's weaving all this wisdom to create the new. Yeah. Well, thank you so, so much. And I encourage everyone to sign up for Rachel's free gift, receive the activation, the empowerment from Sarah, so that she may walk, she, he, they may walk with us in our journey for what needs to unfold now. Thank you. Have you any final words that you'd wish to share, Rachel?
Let me just have a little tune in and see if there's something. I was really happy to have this opportunity to talk today because I can feel this new way that I want to speak about Sarah. And recently I've been listening to the younger generations talking about their way of spirituality and their magical practices and so on and so forth. And I have been so inspired. I feel my generation, we've had to deal with so much trauma. We've been weighed down by it in a lot of ways. And hearing the younger generations playing with all of this stuff, oh my God, it really woke me up to, I can be all of these things too now. I don't have to keep like, keeping this bit quiet because what people will think about, it's like, and yeah, I suppose those are my last words for today that I want to say is like I'm really like thanking the younger generations at the moment for everything that I'm getting from them. And I do feel like I've given a lot over the years, and I feel like I'm getting a lot back now, and it's really lovely.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And play. Oh, yes. Play, play, play. That is
Yeah,
the future and now. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I've loved this conversation, and I know all those that tune in will too. So have a beautiful rest of your day, and to everyone else tuning in, thank you for being here, and we will see you again very soon. Bye for now.